So I work at a hospital, and we have a lot of issues with the kitchen sinks getting plugged up with grease and grime, but there's also drains for stuff they vacuum out during surgeries, blood and stuff like that. And it goes through a machine called a Neptune that captures it all, and then ultimately it kind of filters it and it runs it down the drain. It doesn't completely clean the system. A lot of the byproduct from surgery, the blood and stuff like that, kind of turns greasy, and what it does is it plugs up your drains. It creates a film that builds up over time. So we got this machine in at work through a company called ChemSearch that uses these pellets. It automatically feeds the pellets, and what it does is it breaks down the grime, mostly like the nitrates, the nitrites, eats ammonia, and the only byproduct it lets off is oxygen and CO2. So the people that came down to sell it to us, I talked to them, I got some samples, and I was like, that could work really well in a fish tank. It is basically a bacteria that they created in Canada and overseas. I guess whatever research they needed to do, it wasn't available in the US. So they were kind enough to send me a sample. I tested some water with it. I took a gallon of water. I did a sample. My water was at about 40 parts per million. And then I added 2 of these pellets. I tested it again an hour later, and I had 0 nitrates. So the base test of it works. It gets rid of that stuff. I went and got some feeder goldfish. The next test is going to be to see if it is harmful to fish at all. And I hate doing that, but if this stuff works, it could be really big for the fish tank community. So my first test here is I'm going to start with maybe 10 of the pellets. I'm going to test the water before and after, and we'll see what it does. So here's our control. We're sitting right at about 30 parts per million. The tank I took it out of was just a pass-through tank that I used for grow out. I've disconnected it, but this is the water that was in it. So we'll go ahead and add some pellets. We're going to see what happens with nitrates, and we're going to see if there's any bad effects to the fish. So here's what the pellets look like. Looks like we got about 10 of them there. We're going to go ahead and add those. I'm going to wait a little while, and we're going to retest. And what I'm also going to do is put together a little trickle tower to see if this bacteria will stay alive. The people that brought it to me weren't sure. It takes oxygen to keep alive. Josh at Ohio Fish Rescue, I've kind of talked to him about it, and he said the best chance is to set up a small trickle tower. So that's what I'm going to do. So water's pretty cloudy from this stuff. We're probably about 20 minutes in. You can see that they've mostly broke up. Here's the little system I just put together. It's just a butter lid with some holes in it, and that's full of bio balls. I didn't really have a good pump, so I'm just using this HOB. Probably kind of hard to see, but when the lid's down, it kind of creates a sprinkler system over those. They go clear up to the top, so it's going to take a bit, but we're going to see if we can sustain that bacteria and continue to kill the nitrates. I'm going to do a test here in probably about another 15 minutes, and we're going to see if anything's changed. Another quick change, I went ahead and put the air bubbler underneath to add some oxygen to the system. So we'll see what that does. So it's been close to an hour. It's hard to tell looking at the vials, but if you look at the caps, we're down around the 5 to 10 parts per million mark. Can never get the colors right on a camera or a picture, so shaking it up, this is what we're seeing. I'm going to be gone for the rest of the day, so I'm going to check on things when I get back and do an update. If we're not down to 0 parts per million, which I've already proved that this bacteria can do, I'm going to go ahead and add more, and then we'll go from there. So it's been 3 or 4 hours, and the nitrates have actually increased a bit, probably closer to 20. So I'm going to go ahead and dose this bacteria again, and I'm going to check it again in an hour. But this time, I am going to put it directly in with the bio balls. I'm going to do the same amount, about 10 pellets or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to throw that straight in there, and not only will it kind of feed those bio balls, but the air from the filter should help oxygenate it. All the fish are doing fine. The water cleared up while I was gone. Everybody seems to be fine. I'm going to feed him. There's Harvey. He's not a fish. So yeah, I'm going to check back in an hour. Not for you. And we'll see how things are going. Just got up for work. It's about 4:30 in the morning. Did a quick test. Everything is the same. We're sitting with no noticeable drop again. Another thing too is there's a big, what looks like a big bacterial bloom. All the fish are still alive. When I get home from work, I'm going to do an ammonia and a nitrite test, see where we're sitting with that, and then go from there. So I just got home from work and did a full test. Ammonia showing 0. Nitrites are still showing 0. Again, hard to tell from the pictures. Let's see if I can get some in the cap. I would say that the nitrate is the same or slightly less. pH year-round sits at about 7.3 or so, and that looks pretty consistent. I did come home to one of these fish being dead, but they're feeders, so that's not terribly unusual. The water is still a little cloudy, so I'm wondering if I killed the cycle, if it's coming back, or if this bacteria is just creating a bloom of its own, which is very possible. The fish ate. Everything seems normal in there. Water's good as far as the test, so I'm just going to continue to watch this and see if it's going through a cycle with this different bacteria, and just kind of see what happens. We're on day 3 now. Everything is still the same. The tank has cleared up substantially. Always hard to tell in here because of the lighting. So I'm just going to keep monitoring and see if things start to drop, see if this bacteria is starting to grow, or see what's going on. As of right now, I would say that it's not particularly doing anything, but time will tell. So I'm about a week into this experiment with the bacteria, and my nitrates are slowly going up. I'm probably right around 40 right now. But with any in-fish cycle, you're going to do some water changes along with it until you can get your system to settle down. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 25-30% water change and see what happens. A lot of times a good cycle takes 2 months, could take a month. It takes a while. So this bacteria may not be any different. Also, I started with seeded bacteria that you'd find in a normal aquarium. So I don't know how this stuff is going to react with that. If I don't get any good results with this, I might just start over with fresh media that doesn't have any bio on it, and see if it will take then. But for now, I'm going to do that water change, and I'm going to continue to monitor. I added a little bit more to the bacteria as well. I thought maybe there wasn't enough, and it seems like it hasn't been harmful, so we'll go with that. Another issue I'm having is this arowana here is just beating the hell out of itself trying to jump through the lid. And a lot of times it's for no reason. You can see the tip of its mouth there is just beat to hell. Luckily, it's not getting through the lids. I've never dealt with a arowana that continually tries to jump out, and honestly everyone that I've had this jumped out, with the exception of the Giardini, has died. So if anyone has any suggestions on how to deal with a jumper, that'd be awesome. I just fed, that's why the water is a little cloudy. I tried feeding them some salmon, and they're hit and miss on it. It's always gone by the end of the night, so it's getting eaten. Everyone else seems to like it. The vampire tetra is just eating it up. He loves it, and he's a finicky eater. So if anyone has any suggestions with the bacteria or with the arowana, please comment below. Thanks. As I was looking at these videos before I actually put the whole thing together, kind of noticed there were some things that I was kind of touching on but not really fully explaining that really wouldn't make much sense about this tank kind of going in and out of a cycle. One thing I didn't explain is I think it's a different kind of cycle. Your typical cycle, you're still going to have your nitrites, nitrates, your ammonia, and you're going to be monitoring all that stuff to see, you know, as one goes down, another goes up, and you have a complete cycle. I think that it's a different kind of cycle, if that makes any sense, because this bacteria automatically eats the nitrites and the nitrates in the ammonia. It's going to go through a cycle that does not show that byproduct. I don't know if those were actual blooms that were happening. That was just speculation. It could have just been cloudy from the bacteria itself. There's just a lot of unknowns, and a lot of it is me just, I don't put any thought before I do these videos. I just kind of say what's going through my head on the mind at the time. So a lot of times I might be contradicting myself when I'm making these videos, but ultimately, like I was saying before, I think it's a different kind of cycle if this bacteria is working. And it makes a little more sense if you guys were wondering what the hell I was talking about as I was making it. That's that arowana that likes to smack the lid. He usually does it a few times and then he goes and lays down there. I'm going to have to do something with him. He's going to end up killing himself. Anyways, I thought I'd kind of clear that up so things would make a little more sense, so I don't sound like some dumb shit just rattling off a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to continue the test, and we'll see what happens again in a couple weeks.